The flowers in the garden vied with each other to show off their colors in the early morning sun. Each delicate ray of light pierced through the window, gently touching Tieu Uyen's face, softly awakening her from her sleep, like a whisper heralding the arrival of a new day. Yuan gently pushed open the door, letting the crisp air fill the familiar little house, carrying the scent of plants and a feeling of profound peace. She stood silently by the window, her gaze following the small road stretching into the distance. In that moment, Yuan silently promised herself to try harder, to be stronger, so that tomorrow would always be better than today. She believed that at the end of that road, a gentle light awaited her. Yuan stepped out into the yard, standing in her own little patch of sky, taking a deep breath to fill her lungs with the freshness of the morning. Then she sat down beside the lush green vegetable patch, the fruit of days of meticulous cultivation. The healthy sprouts brought a sense of calm to her heart. But Uyen's gaze suddenly stopped at a corner of the empty field. A fleeting sadness passed over her, as if she were reproaching herself for not being thorough enough. She stood up, walked towards the pond, and carefully watered the unfinished plot of land with buckets of cool water. Yuan's hands moved swiftly and gently. Then new seeds were sown, carrying hope into the soil, once again, with her own faith and patience. While she was concentrating on her work, she suddenly heard very soft footsteps behind her. The director appeared, his face beaming with joy and excitement, slowly approaching Uyen. The surprise made her jump and turn around, then she unconsciously smiled. She didn't know why, but the joy spread so quickly within her, perhaps because of his unexpected appearance, or perhaps because of the familiar and reassuring feeling he brought. He told her he'd just gotten a new job, located near their little house, so he'd stopped by to visit Uyen early. He sat down beside her, chatting and awkwardly helping her tend the garden. His hesitant but sincere movements warmed the space in the sunlight. Afterward, they went into the kitchen. They sat at the table, silently gazing out at the garden once more. In the morning sun, the garden appeared vibrant, like a lush green patch of hope growing year after year. They both smiled softly, feeling relieved and peaceful, as if all good things were quietly beginning right here. Then they talked, as familiar as if they'd been apart for a long time, even though only yesterday they'd been together on a trip to the floating market. Simple, trivial stories followed one another, enough to shorten the distance between them a little. As usual, today Uyen went to the garden to pick fruit to take to the market. Fortunately, the director had recently gotten a new job and had more free time, so he offered to accompany her. He said he wanted to help Uyen pick the fruit and also wanted to experience the smell of the earth and trees, things he had rarely encountered since his childhood, a life filled with books and work. Uyen just smiled and nodded slightly, so the two left their small house and followed the familiar dirt road. Before them stretched a vast orange grove in full harvest season. The trees were lush, and the ripe oranges hung heavy on the branches, gleaming with a warm orange-yellow hue in the sunlight. They carefully picked each orange, gently placing them in their baskets. Though still clumsy, the director was very enthusiastic, sometimes even picking unripe oranges by mistake, which made Uyen laugh. Under the scorching sun, beads of sweat dotted both their faces, but neither complained of fatigue. They only felt a lightness in their hearts. Thanks to his help, the work went much faster. Before long, the basket was full of oranges. After settling the bill with the orchard owner, the two of them took the oranges to the market. The market was bustling with laughter and chatter, buyers and sellers alike. As soon as they set up their stall, the first customers arrived. Then, one by one, people stopped to buy oranges. Standing beside them, the manager couldn't hide his surprise at Uyen's skill and quickness. She spoke simply and sincerely, a smile always on her face, making everyone she met feel trusting and likable. When the last oranges were sold, only the relieved smiles of the two of them remained, a silent affirmation of the success of today's market. They packed up their belongings and returned together to their familiar little house. Following the dirt path through the fields, the two of them walked and chatted happily. In the director's heart, this experiential trip left a very clear thought. Happiness and peace sometimes don't come from grand things, but begin in simple, small moments like these. The dirt road today suddenly seemed shorter with him walking beside her, unfinished conversations, silly laughter that hadn't yet faded, before the small house appeared before their eyes. In the simple kitchen, the two sat at an old bamboo table, reminiscing about their recent trip to the market. Uyen awkwardly said she had bothered him, but felt strangely happy inside. He just smiled, saying he hoped to go to the market with Uyen many more times. The whole small house and garden seemed to be enveloped in a new warmth, more peaceful and gentle. Uyen chose the sweetest oranges, setting them aside for him as a silent thank you that didn't need words. The next morning, a storm raged. A heavy downpour arrived, heralding another unfavorable day. As soon as the rain stopped, the young director, as usual, went to the construction site to check on the progress. Before him was a chaotic scene, everything in disarray, and progress far behind schedule. He was greeted by Miss Anne, the deputy project manager. With a hesitant expression, she explained the situation. From her explanation, he learned that the materials from the supplier were delayed. The young director's face turned stern. He demanded that the project manager come to see him immediately. Elsewhere, Uyen was diligently tending to her garden. She lovingly cared for each small row of vegetables, but her mind was preoccupied with his image. Uyen was lost in thought, softly murmuring to herself. Suddenly remembering that he had mentioned working on a nearby project the day before, her heart fluttered. Without further ado, after finishing her garden, Uyen went to the kitchen to cook delicious meals to take to the construction site for him at lunchtime. She just wanted to do something for him, however small. Meanwhile, at the construction site, the engineer, who was also the project manager, brought the blueprints to the young director. He explained that the heavy rain and the supplier's delayed delivery of materials had affected the progress. After hearing this, the CEO simply nodded, urging everyone to work day and night to meet the deadline, leaving the supplier issue to him. Then he went to survey the construction site. Afterward, he called all the suppliers he knew. But with each call, he received the same answer. They had prioritized materials for other projects. His face showed clear dissatisfaction. He hung up the phone and sat silently, overwhelmed with helplessness. Just then, Uyen arrived at the construction site. In her hand was a red bag containing the meal she had woken up early to cook for him. Upon arrival, Uyen met the engineer. He said the director was out surveying the area, then led Uyen to meet him. Seeing Uyen, all the pressure he felt seemed to vanish. He walked closer, smiled gently, and inquired about her well-being. Knowing Uyen had brought him lunch, he thanked her gratefully, then invited Uyen and the engineer into his nearby office. Upon arrival, the engineer politely declined to join them, citing his busy schedule, leaving them alone. Uyen laid out the dishes on the table and invited the CEO to eat. He sat down and slowly savored each dish. His face lit up with undeniable happiness. He praised Uyen's cooking skills, saying she cooked all his favorite dishes, and they were all delicious. Uyen looked at him silently, but her eyes held a gentle sense of contentment. Just as they were chatting happily, the CEO received a call from the materials supplier. Through the exchange, he learned they would supply all the remaining materials needed for his project. After the call ended, he couldn't hide his joy. The biggest problem was finally solved. At the end of the day, as the sunset faded and night fell, he took Uyen for a walk in a nearby park. Under the soft streetlights, they sat on a park bench, chatting and gazing at the starry sky. In that peaceful moment, they both silently prayed that their future lives would become better.